Ondo State Deputy Governor and Acting Governor Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa was yesterday sworn in as the substantive governor of the state. Less than 24 hours after news of the passing of Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu broke. Aiyedatiwa took the oath of office amid a nationwide mourning of his former principal, who died of prostate cancer on Wednesday in Germany.
Lucky Aiyedatiwa was sworn in at the governor's office, Alagbaka in Akure, by the state's Chief Judge, Justice Olusegun Odushola. Present at the ceremony were the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Olamide Oladiji, members of the Assembly, the Secretary to the State Government, Oladuni Odu, and the State Chairman of the ruling party, APC, Demise.
Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as Governor of Ondo State, I will discharge my duties to the best of my ability, faithfully, and in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So,
Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa described the death of Rotimi Akeredolu as unfortunate and promised to continue with his projects and policies. Aiyedatiwa said Akeredolu's death was a devastating shock to the people of the state and Nigeria at large.
His records of performance are monumental and unprecedented. I want to assure the people of Ondo State that under my watch, this administration shall continue to advance the welfare of the people. We shall always place the people first in every decision we take. It is my prayer once more that God Almighty shall grant the family and the people of Ondo State the fortitude to bear this irreparable loss. Let me use this opportunity to convey our deep appreciation to Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
Others who spoke with newsmen said the people of Southwest will be eternally grateful to him for the establishment of Amotekun, which has reduced the menace of banditry, kidnapping, and other criminality in the region, and called for peace among politicians in the state.
To Ondo State, we will remember him for life. He's a governor that we will not forget in life. He's a truth person. He's a man of his word. I believe in that. For that, Ondo State will continue to remember him for good.
Akeredolu is a man, I know during his lifetime that was very organized. He would not want a rowdy session. He was a master in the game of politics, but at the same time, the legacy that is leaving behind must be sustained. I think people must be united. We need a courageous leader. And I think the new guy, the acting governor, is up to that task. He should be able to continue from where Akeredolu stopped. So all other politicians must rally around him. The Ondo State people are craving for development.
Joining us now on the morning show as we look at the life and times of Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu and the prospects of the newly sworn-in Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, whose tenacity and divine stroke of luck has made him Governor of Ondo State. He is Benson Enikuomehhin, a lawyer from Ondo State. He will be joined by Kolawole Johnson, Head Directorate of Research and Strategy, Acts for Positive Transformation Initiatives, and Ajanaku, former Director of Media and Publicity for Akeredolu Campaign Organization in 2012 and member of the Media Council in 2016. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. All three of you are from Ondo State, so our commiserations, our condolences to each one of you. But I would like to start with the two of you in the studio here, that Mr. Enikuomehhin and also Ajanaku. Both of you worked directly with Governor Akeredolu. What are your recollections What kind of man was he? How do you feel, given this latest development? And you, Kolawole Johnson, I assume you are in our Abuja studio. I'd like you to take us through some of the lessons that we can learn from the Dibeku in Ondo State about politics, about how, public officials who fall ill, how they should handle the situation and all that, because this should be, I think, part of our reflections, even as we begin with the life and times of Governor Akeredolu. Let me start with you, Mr. Enikuomehhin. The last time you were on this program, the circumstances were different, but we'd like to hear from you today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Abati and his team. It's a sad moment for us in Ondo State. This is a humbling period for all of us. We've lost a fighter. I had the privilege of working very closely with him. I recall I was in Lagos when he needed somebody to be his returning agent for the 2016 election. He put a call across to one of the gentlemen in the state who called me and said, Mr. Akeredolu would love you to be the agent of the party. I told him I was going for a program. He said, please, you need to come. And I went. He told me, Benson, you need to do this for me because I do know you won't compromise. I stood in, and as God will have it, he won that election, and I returned the result to him in Owo. Thereafter, unfolding events, he appointed me as a senior special assistant on oil and gas. And we worked for a while. One thing I can say about Akeredolu is that he's an extrovert to the core. If you pinch Akeredolu with a pin and you think he will not talk, you are deceiving yourself. Bring a memo that's unreasonable, he thrusts it at you immediately, and it tells you his mind. I worked with him for about a year and some few months, and I felt the way things were going, I wasn't comfortable with him. And I told him this. On the 16th of April 2017, said, Your Excellency, you may take some decisions that will not be too comfortable with me. I'm not going to criticize you in public. Rather than criticizing you, I will quit. And so on the 30th of November 2018, I left. The then Commissioner for Information, I can't recall his name immediately now, put a call across to him, and I told him, I've left. And my reason was simple. I'm grateful for Your Excellency for the opportunity to serve. Please, I resign my appointment as SSA Oil and Gas. But the period in which I had with him, he was a man who was given to something that we call thorough. Because before he got his members of ESCO on board, I had the privilege of serving in the committee, the steering committee, that put the blueprint of Ondo State together. And we will argue. He was governor, but in that meeting we used to call him chairman. I think we were about 16 or 17 or thereabout. I was privileged to be there, and I would say it the way I see it. I commiserate with the entire Ondo State, with his immediate family, with the government and people of Ondo State. We can't forget Akeredolu in a hurry. particularly what he did when the security challenges in the country were quite overwhelming. And recall, at that time, his case was at the Supreme Court, where everybody was saying he should lie low. The man said, no, let me go with my people. And that was the reason why I criticized persons who hid him when this man was indisposed. But I knew him. I worked with him. It's gone. We will remember him for those periods and for the things he did. And my prayer is his successor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, while he will clean the table, he should please not forget to go ahead and do the good things his boss began, and if there are other things to add to it, he must do, because it is his time to lead the state. For every one of us in Ondo State, both those who were busy making from the unpleasant situation and those who were against it, this is the time to come together. And I think, Mr. Governor, if peradventure he hears me, he should extend his hand of fellowship to everyone in his party, across his party, so that we can take on those states to a higher ground. Adieu, Akeredolu.
Okay, let's hear from Ajanaku, who was also a close associate of the late governor, as campaign manager and as a member of his media council. Ajanaku.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruben Martin and your team. There are certain, let me use this opportunity to commiserate with the people of Ondo State, especially the immediate family of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. But there are certain things that many people do not know about Akeredolu, which I think I will put on the public domain today. The reality of it is this: Akeredolu did not just emanated and come out one day that he want to become governor of Ondo State. Akeredolu was deeply rooted in the politics of the progressives. Since we started AD in 1999, Akeredolu has been one of the lawyers that was busy prosecuting our cases. He was part of the team that retrieved our mandate from Oyo State, from Ogun State. He was part of the team that retrieved the mandate from Osun State. He was a part of the team that retrieved the mandate from Ondo State. He was part of the team that retrieved the mandate from Edo State, from the opposition party at that time. It was all manners of these things that Akeredolu had done at that time that made the then leader of the ACN, who is the current president of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, to insisted at a meeting at John in Lagos that Akeredolu will be the candidate of the ACN then. Akeredolu is deeply rooted in the progressive politics. That is him. And the reason why we gave him the ticket then, that President Bola Tinubu told us at a meeting, was that if Akeredolu is elected, he can go to sleep, because Akeredolu will not wake up one day and said he want to jump from AD to PDP. That it will never happen. And that is exactly what Akeredolu did. So Akeredolu is a fully progressive individual. And let me also make this point very clear. To those people who think that Akeredolu cannot manage a relationship, that they had a relationship with the deputy governor at the first time, they had a relationship with the second governor. Let me say this clearly to the public, that the first deputy that Akeredolu had in 2016, when he became the governor of Ondo State, was an outsider within the party. He has never been a progressive member of our party, and the fact that he didn't know the creed and even he didn't even understand Akeredolu, you could see what has transpired. But this one is a contrary to what Aiyedatiwa is all about. Aiyedatiwa in 2012 at John, when Akeredolu was pronounced as the candidate of the party by the leadership of the party at that time, Aiyedatiwa was the one who gave his bulletproof car to Akeredolu 2012. I was there, not I was told, because I was a member of that thing, to to drive him back to Ondo State. That is the kind of synergy and relationship that existed between Akeredolu and Akeredolu then. And when Akeredolu got to Ondo, Senator Akeredolu was appointed as the Director General of the campaign. I was appointed as the Director of Media of the campaign, and so many other appointments like that, and we worked together as a team. Just like Barrister Enikuomehhin said, Akeredolu is a man who give room for ideas, and we used to debate a lot. At that time, when we were debating, I would tell her, I say, Your Excellency, you are senior advocate of Nigeria in your profession. I'm also a senior advocate of Nigeria in my own journalistic profession. And that's the way we argue. Yes, that's yes.
We will promote you to that rank.
No. So that's the way we used to put Akeredolu on the defensive there, and we did the work together. And in 2016, one thing about Akeredolu is this tenacity to get whatever he believed that he want to get. And in 2016, he went headlong and became the governor of Ondo State. One thing you cannot take away from him is that Akeredolu was deeply committed to his people, his focus, and is an honest man and a brutal man to the core. He will tell you as it is when you make any mistake. And when he shouted at you, and that is the end, and that is the kind of person that Akeredolu was. But just like he said, Akeredolu does not tolerate any kind of lawlessness around himself. Perhaps if Akeredolu were to be aware of himself, he would have transmitted letter to the State House of Assembly long time ago for Akeredolu to act on his behalf. You do remember that Akeredolu, of all the governors in Nigeria, he had transmitted letter 4 times to the Ondo State House of Assembly anytime he was going out. And that's the kind of person Akeredolu is.
Let's bring in Kolawole Johnson into the conversation. Kolawole Johnson, well, I'm not sure you work directly with the late governor, but you can take us, through some of the developments and what kind of transformation we should expect in Ondo State now that we have a new governor, and then lessons that we can extract from the Ondo State debacle, if we may call it that.
Good morning, Dr. Abate. Yesterday again, it became clear that death is as natural as life. I mean, we contradicted it the day we were conceived. And I doubt if it will come to anyone when we are in the mood. It comes, of course, at times when we least expect. I think it was Margaret Mitchell that said, death taxes. There is never any convenient time, to pay this debt that we owe, life. And unfortunately, that of Akeredolu came yesterday, and it's sad. It's sad. We commiserate with the family and his friends, his associates. Like you said, I didn't work with him, except in 2019 when he was seeking re-election. That was the only time we spoke. Maybe twice or thereabouts. I didn't have any close work experience with him. But of course, his footprint on the stand of history is there clearly on what he stands for. And I mentioned it here the last time I was here that we know him, we know what he represented, and the things he will never do, you can tell, much more, even without sitting with him to talk. When I was listening to your report and I saw that part that he wasn't transmitting power, maybe I should say this. It may not be the best of time to say this, but when you asked me on the program, that should be 2 weeks ago or last week, I can't remember, that why did he not come out to denounce when they were accusing, when they said his signatures were being forged? And I couldn't respond. Of course, tears came out of my eyes because I knew he wasn't able to respond. He wasn't able. He wasn't having that. He wasn't strong again to do all of that. I don't want to also, say some things. Of course, you have to also give him his privacy and the family also. But for a very long time, he was in a very critical situation that he was not aware of most of the things that his handlers were doing. I mean, that I can confirm. And of course, I also said that on air, that all of those things you heard that they were all lies. The man was not strong enough for a long time. And some are even blaming that if the man had been taken out in good time, perhaps would have been able to extend his life or even save him. Who knows? But I know that whatever is it was time. And now he's gone to rest. May the Lord rest his soul. On the lessons we have learned thus far in the state, it is the fact that you can scheme as a man, but there's a limit to what a man can do. A man will remain a man. Of course, cannot take the place of God. Whatever they are done, they did for some time to ensure that his ill health, turn a political advantage. Of course, it's just, it has fallen very flat. Not necessarily because some other persons too would not have done the same thing, because politicians are all the same. But of course, it wasn't just right to treat the man like that. What he stands for, because unfortunately, his legacy, over time, it appears that incident, all of the drama, took a very huge bite into his legacy, into the perception you should have about Akeredolu as a person. Go to the state, that level of mourning you should expect for a man of status of Akeredolu is not dead. Not because of Akeredolu, it was because of all of the drama and the event that happened. I think it should be a lesson not only to politicians, also to the man right there now, that you also need to thread very softly, very carefully, and be circumspect in taking decisions. Of course, knowing well that life, you don't have a total control, of that. And again, we'll be begging for development very quickly. There is no time to waste again. I listened to Barrister Enikuomehhin, who said clearly that, of course, for some time, we've not, okay, I think it was a Barrister Samuel, who was interviewed earlier in your report, who said the state is begging for development. And yes, that is true. That is just the truth. The last 1 year, nothing significant, you can point to. So we need to start seeing that creative governance now. It is time for him to clearly put the state on the map by driving development properly. But the lesson we've learned, ultimately,
Mr. Johnson, death. Let me come in there, please, because I would like to follow up from what you've just said and pose that question to all our guests this morning. I'm glad that we've honored former Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, and now you have come on to the note of development and moving forward. And a number of people have said that the newly sworn-in Governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has a lot of work ahead of him, because in the last few months, there's been a gap, as it were, when it comes to leadership in Ondo State. So from each of you, I'd like you to share with us what would be your the first things that Governor Aiyedatiwa should do now that he's in office. Some people have said reconciliation, development. What would you like to see happen in Ondo State? I will continue with you, Mr. Johnson, for a few minutes, just very briefly, and then I'll come back to the studio for Mr. Enikuomehhin and Mr. Ajanaku to give their thoughts on that. Mr. Johnson, please go ahead.
Well, again, I think, yes, I think I'm a man who also understands culture. I don't think I want to do so much of talking today on on things. However, the new governor he has his job cut out for him, especially with the situation in the country. I've not seen anything that will make the first half of next year any better. Of course, he needs to sit down immediately and ensure that we drive the development that we have missed, in the last few months. And I think he won't be, he's not bankrupt of ideas. He's been there as a deputy to him, and he must have been watching and been looking at the loopholes. He has that advantage of, he had the advantage of, sitting behind the scene and watching every single move. He must have noticed the mistakes, and immediately he will start correcting that. On reconciliation, I don't know. Some things are better left unsaid. Of course, maybe you leave that to him, because they will tell you that they are all playing politics. Of course, he needs to sit down and drive the ESCO. And some are already resigning. He can't also afford to do to create a topsy-turvy. I learned some advocating for the ESCO to be dissolved. That would be a very wrong thing to do. The perception would not just be right. He can't do that right now. He can make the best use of what he has, and maybe appoint some that can help him drive development. But suddenly he can't throw away those that his boss appointed just very quickly. He needs to ensure that, of course, you preserve that legacy for some time, and he can bring in more hands, that can help him drive development. But I'm sure that he's up to the task. Of course, he's brilliant. If you've interacted with him, you will see that very clearly.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Enikuomehhin, your thoughts on that? First actions from the new governor.
Well, I am not a prophet of doom, and I will never be one. But it's better to give the pilot some hints that the sky is storming, and that for him to navigate to his destination, he needs to listen to them at the tower, or else he may not make his destination. Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa are coming to become governor. It's different from when Akeredolu was sworn in as governor. A lot of intrigues. And those intrigues are not dead. A lot of challenges. Those challenges are still very much extant. He therefore needs to be wise. He should do more of consultation. He should call the political leaders, speak to them, and because the information about the state is available to him now, for some of the players who were very vociferous, he should bring those things to bear before them. I respect Mr. President. As soon as he came on board, there was a man who said, "Come and fight me now. I want to be president." He didn't beat up the man. He called on him, said, "Come, tell us what you did at Central Bank." And the man began to give explanation. And from the explanation, we began to see more. Aiyedatiwa, why not hunting? Why not going out primarily to fight them? There are persons that should be asked questions. All right. And when those questions, when answers are proffered to those questions, manage them. All right. And then move the state forward. But I do not subscribe to putting fire on top of the roof and then you go to bed. All right. You may not wake up the following morning.
Let me bring in Mr. Ajanaku here. Very quickly, your take on this, because we have very limited time on the show this morning. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think we have said it all. If you plan a coup, and if the coup failed, you know the consequences of a coup. And at this time, I think the new governor of Ondo State should be more focused on consulting more with the leadership of his party and the stakeholders in Ondo State in order to know where things should be improved. For example, I learned that in the last 7 or 8 months, the capital, Akure, has become a city of dirtiness. Everywhere was littered with waste, because nobody was doing most of this job. Perhaps in every local government was just a dead end. Nothing is happening there. And I think as he takes the reign of leadership now, I think he need to look into that, because I can assure you that he will not be able to do a capital project, because by April next year, the the primaries of APC will be conducted in Ondo State. And whether I would like it or not, the politicians, as usual, will be scrambling for the party ticket. And at the same time, the governors will, at least to a large extent, stand still. So I think it should look for the low hangouts now and make sure that he does the best at least to move the state forward and distinguish himself.
Okay, I'll come to you, Mr. Ajanaku. Let's start with the politics, because you see, we mourn Akeredolu, but every other person too is eyeing the politics of next year.
Yeah.
And that's and that's even the reason for the fight in the first place.
I agree with you.
Two things. If you said Akeredolu and Aiyedatiwa was this close, that it was even Aiyedatiwa's bulletproof car that they used to carry Akeredolu to Ondo, who now sowed the seed of discord? Was it because of politics or power? Or was it that Akeredolu is not here, is past, God rest, so can't speak for himself? Was it that they had other people they wanted to use? Then let's talk about the politics of Ondo next year. Who are the front runners in the APC before now?
Okay.
Who are those that will put a stumbling block to Aiyedatiwa? Well, that's the first question to you. To you, sir, I'd like to ask you, what scores do you think Aiyedatiwa need to settle? And who are those names? If you can mention names of those you want to be probed. And to you, Mr. Kolaole Johnson, you talked about a court case as regards forgery of Akeredolu's signature. Where is that court case? Are you going to persist in court now and allow the DSS or criminal authorities to arrest those that forged the signature, or you want to leave it because the man is dead? Because we must see the end to that case. So those are the three questions. Number one to you, sir, but quickly because we have time. Time is fast spent here. Okay.
I think Aiyedatiwa's problem started on the day Akeredolu was sworn in for second time in Ondo State. Why did I say so? In the full glare of the public, the former governor told the whole world that he want to decrease so that Aiyedatiwa can increase. That is just have a 4 year left, and that they want to use this 4 years so that Aiyedatiwa can continue to one way stop for where it will stop. With that kind of a profound statement in a political arena like that, you know that Aiyedatiwa has been put on arm's way politically. Because those people who were looking forward to becoming a candidate of the party, especially when the party has zoned, quote unquote, the gubernatorial candidate of the party to Ondo South. You know that people from Ondo South, especially those people who are in the position, will not be happy with Aiyedatiwa. And you will be sure that from that day, there will be kind of crisis.
Where is Aiyedatiwa from?
Aiyedatiwa from Ilaje in the Ondo South Central District of the state.
So there were other people from there that wanted the position?
Yes, that Olusola Oke is a candidate. Lately now, Jimoh Ibrahim is a candidate. The SSG is an aspirant. The Commissioner for Finance is an aspirant. And so many of them like that. So for a governor to now say that you continue, you know what I mean. And see, this is a notorious fact that in politics, you don't give away your strategy too early. If you do that, you'll be in trouble. And that is exactly what happened to Aiyedatiwa.
Okay, so you'll be able to mention something. In fact, we saw the papers, Jimoh Ibrahim making some giant move in Ondo State. That means he might be in the race if that happens. So a lot of political calculations are going on. So we have 2 minutes. Who are the scores he needs to settle? If you can answer this in 1 minute, so I can come to Mr. Johnson to just answer his own question. Who are the scores he needs to settle?
He is now the king. He doesn't need to settle score. All he needs to do is to investigate and find out.
Which people?
No, those who were involved in this debacle.
Who are those?
You very well. There were people who were forging signatures.
Who are those people?
Well, the press reported it, so we should ask from the press more than from me. But again, I said he shouldn't concentrate his energy solely on them. While he moves forward, there are some that are already resigning. There are some that are already giving way because they know they will be asked questions. So for such individuals who are still in government, who stood on his way, because the truth of the matter is what Mr. Ajanaku has said, 2024. That's the score. And so he should call meetings. Some of them he can reconcile with them. He can call them. They will open up. They know now that Akeredolu has the yam, the knife, the oil. They are all in his hands now. He used this kind of privileged position to call them and say, old boy, why were you fighting? What is it all about? Sir, I believe you become governor. What would be my take? Politics is about negotiation. So your arch enemy today can be your angel tomorrow, best friend tomorrow. Okay. He should use his privileged position. Summer meeting. Sorry, before I go. I recall in one of our meetings when I was having Akeredolu, I said, sir, call meetings regularly. Call meetings regularly with these stakeholders. When you don't inform the people, they will form opinion of what is going on. Okay. That I should call meetings and hold meetings with these people.
Mr. Johnson, real quickly, is your court case going to go ahead? Who are those forging this signature? Are you going to let it be done like because Akeredolu is dead, or you're going to go ahead?
All right. First, it was not about, in fact, to actually keep the legacy of Akeredolu, the fight, is worth it. We're going to fight not because we should separate criminality from politics. What you saw, they were playing politics of succession, and nobody intervened until they descended to the arena of criminality. And I think that is not what you can stop. And by the way, it was not a court case. We wrote to the anti-corruption agencies and other security agencies. And we are discussing putting a formal report before the governor so that he can act. But I also suspect that he may have, he may be having some restrictions. Why? He has an election. There is no way this will be done, and the House of Assembly would not be affected. So we'll submit that report and we'll see what he does with that. Thank you.
If he doesn't act, would you like to go to court yourself, since you investigated and you want to sue on this? Would you like to go to court?
Now, we've been doing this for upward of 6 years, and I can tell you that we have gotten a lot of support from the anti-corruption agencies. At times, they've gotten, they get some roadblocks from the presidency, who would not want them to forge ahead with some things.
But the governor doesn't act.
I can tell you that.
Would you like to go to court?
Now we have the governor, we have the anti-corruption agency. Of course, if it gets to that, we should. But by the way, let me say this, Rufai. These agencies, please wait. These agencies, so we fund them. They are funded by taxpayers' money. Why would they not do what they are, what they are paid to do? So we force the agencies to act. If they don't, of course, we approach the court in good time.
On that note, we'd like to thank you, gentlemen. Kolawole Johnson, thank you for joining us. Idowu Ajanaku, good to see you, and good to hear that you are now an SAN in the media. And thank you, Mr. Benson Enikuomehhin. Thank you very much indeed.